The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, guys, welcome back to another KevCAM night class tonight. We're going to be changing up things a little bit for you guys in the upcoming night classes for you guys. So tonight and pretty much every night going forward, unless Greg's bouncing around, Greg Payton will be joining us for each one of the night classes and kind of do it as a kind of going back and forth for you guys, because when I'm focused in on doing some of this stuff, there's something blatantly obvious that I'm not catching for you guys, so Greg will be able to fill that in for us. Greg, are you with us?
Good evening, gentlemen.
So, and I do see one new guy in here, Justin. Justin, where are you from? That last name looks familiar. So for those of you guys that are new, everybody is in mute only, just to eliminate any background noise. If you guys do have a question, definitely type that into the questions panel of the GoToWebinar, and either myself or Greg will address those right away for you guys. And definitely laid back as can be, and just these night classes are solely for training purposes for you guys. If you guys do have ideas, send those over to me. Hey, Ronnie. Send those over to me via email, and I will put my email address in the chat area for you, so everybody should see that. Send those over to me email, and I better get this up. We'll send you off some SolidCAM swag as a thank you for sending those ideas. And then I think Justin is the only one I see that's new in here. We do record every night class for you guys. So if you guys go to YouTube and type in KevCAM or SolidCAM University, this channel should pop up for you. Each one of the night classes is recorded. Additional to doing some live cuts in here for you guys, and something that Greg and I have just started this week is the tip of the day for you guys. So if you guys do have something that it's a great suggestion that has helped you in the shop, send those over to me in email, and we'll get those added in there for you guys as well. So, all right.
Yeah, as well as providing our own tips that we've come across in our use of SolidCAM.
Absolutely. And I have about a page worth of stuff that I've just kind of come across the last couple of days. So, like I said, if you guys have come across something, let us know, and love to share that with the SolidCAM community with you guys. So. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling tonight. Tonight is something that you guys, or I can't remember which one of you guys, but one of you guys wanted to see, and basically is what does all this do over here on the left side of my screen. It's all the geometry, the new geometry options that are in here. So we're kind of go through this with a fine-tooth comb, kind of explaining what everything does, giving you guys some examples of what everything does. So not a too exciting of a night class for you guys, but I think this will definitely help you guys out as well. So, all right, so first things first, we'll kind of just start at the top and work our way down. Now, as you guys are naming your geometry, you guys can use geometry in other operations. So if this pertains to you guys, that you guys want to use multiple different geometries or the same geometry for the part, definitely come up to the top and name that geometry. That way you guys can come back and look at and just get a quick reference of what's going on or what that geometry is for. Now, moving farther down here is we have our configuration. Now, since SolidCAM works right inside of SolidWorks, you guys can use this configuration for as many configurations as you guys would like. So maybe I just want to pull up my stock and fixture. Maybe I just want to pull up the default or the vise for picking my geometry. Definitely come in here and change up your configurations as well. Now, I would say 90% of the time, you guys can just go right to picking geometry. None of this is really relevant for you guys. But if you guys are running on a fourth axis and you guys want to do a rotation using simultaneous fourth, but let's see, Greg, how do I explain this when you do the wrap feature? It's simultaneous fourth, but you guys don't need to have simultaneous fourth active in your license. And what it's going to do is that tool is going to point right towards the Z direction or whatever direction that you want. So if we do the wrap, you can come in here and we're going to tell it we want to wrap the geometry around whatever axis is on rotation. Hopefully that makes sense.
Right. So your tool's going to point at your rotational axis when you choose that wrapped feature.
There you go. And so, like I said, you don't need that simultaneous fourth action. I can't talk tonight. Simultaneous fourth axis module, but you just need this. This comes with 2.5D professional or higher for you guys. And like so, this works good for engraving, doing a slot around a a circle or stuff like that. So real easy to use there. But here's the kicker. Is when you guys are using wrap geometry, you can't chain your geometry first and then come over in here and hit wrapped. You always want to hit wrapped first and tell it what axis you want to wrap it around. Then you can click on your geometry. So hopefully that makes sense for all you guys. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on a chain right here for right now, and that will activate my icons over here. So what's going on over here is just kind of some quick mouse click gestures. And these also have, and I know Ronnie, you talked about this, shortcut keys set up for them. So let's say I want to keep continuing that chain around. You can see the arrow. And if I zoom in here, you'll see I have two blue directions here. And since I have my tangent propagation and constant Z, which we'll talk about just in a little bit here, turned on, it's asking me which direction do I want to go. So I can continue going through by hitting this button right here, or I can hit F6. So if I hit this, and it's going to go to the next segment for me. But now, let's say I don't want it to go this way, I want it to go down. Easy enough. We can come over here, click the change direction, or you can hit F7. And then it's going to change the direction for you. And then you can go back and hit F6, and it's going to go through. So you can kind of see that arrow direction. You're following that more than anything. So I'll just change direction again, continue through. So that's one way to go about it. Now
stopping you real quick there, Kevin. One of the nice things about having hotkeys is if you do have one of the nicer 3D connection mice, you can actually map those hotkeys, the F6 and the F7 button, to these customizable buttons on your 3D mouse. That way you can go through and rotate your model with that 3D mouse and start selecting your geometry as you go. So it's a nice feature that I've mapped on mine, and something you guys may want to play with as you program out your parts.
Yeah, that's a great point, because time is money when it comes to programming, and the sooner you guys can kind of go through things, and just like when you guys are creating your SolidWorks models, those hotkeys really help you out speed-wise. So definitely map those out. And I'm currently running the 3D Connection Space Pilot Pro. Greg, I think you're running. Which one are you running? Are you running the Pro?
I think I'm on the Space Pilot First Mate.
First Mate, okay. So yeah, definitely you guys set that up on your buttons, and I know pretty much everybody in here has the 3D Connection 3D mouse. So okay, so maybe we want to change the direction of this cut. So by by default, let me just kind of start over here. I got ahead of myself. So let's say we want to chain this right here, but I want it to go a certain way. Well, if I click from center line over to the left, my chain is going to go to the right. See how our arrow is going to the right? Let me just undo that. Now if I click more to the right side, my chain's going to go to the, maybe not. My chain should be going to the left. In normal situations, it would be going to the left. Let me hop out of here real quick and get everything refreshed. All right, we'll hit new here. Okay, so if I hit over towards this way, there it goes. My chain will go left for me. So it all depends on where you click. Now, let me delete that real quick. Let me turn off this tangent propagation constant Z. Let's say I accidentally clicked the wrong direction. So this button over here, the reverse button, will reverse your toolpath. So if we hit F8 or click the reverse button, you'll see how my chain direction switched over. Now, chain direction does not matter with iMachine, but everything else. So you always want to make sure your chain direction is going the correct way, because that is the way that your end mill and face mill and all that stuff is going to follow that direction. So, and then we also have the oops button. So you can hit the undo button or hit the backspace, and then that will just undo that chain for you guys. So, any questions with the chaining options over here? All right, so let me chain this one around here real quick. Show you one more thing in here. Okay, so now I have a chain in my list. Now you do have some options in here as well. So if you guys right-click on the chain, we can do a replace. So that's going to pretty much wipe out that chain, and we can replace it with something else. We can do insert a chain that's going to go right above it. We can edit that chain. We can reverse the direction, or also hit F5. You guys can give the chains a name as well. Now we can set it for clockwise or counterclockwise. Now, if you guys are doing a pocket or iMachining, or even some of the HSS or HSM modules, you guys have the option to do open edges. Now, I know we've talked about this quite a bit in the past, but what you guys can do is, if you just want to work on a, if you want to tell it just a certain portion of the pocket is open, you can do mark open edges. Or if you're trying to do the entire, let's see, like a face mill operation, you can actually come over here and mark the entire chain as open as well. So, and then the mark open edges, let me hop into a pocket operation real quick for you guys. Get out of here, 20 pocket. Okay, so in here, so if we do the mark open edges here, you do have a couple of options in here as well. So you guys can do mark the chain, the certain area as open, or if you have a part that is all open edges and you just want to make one spot a wall, what you guys can do is you can mark that entire chain as open, and then come right click on that chain again and come and click the wall option, and you guys can actually click on the wall that is a closed off pocket. Toggling is kind of switching back and forth between them. This one's one that don't use very much, but it kind of follows along the same principles as a wall. So it's gonna, instead of being open, it will just toggle it over to the next available option, which would be wall. Now the single entity and the from to entity. So if you guys have a sketch, let me do one up real quick here. Sorry guys, I should have had this a little bit better. So let me zoom out here, and let's just do a sketch. Let's do something like that. Exit sketch, and we'll do a pocket, new. So if we do something as point to point. Now this is like if it's a missing geometry and you just have points, and I'll talk about the point to point. But if I come here, do point to point, and sorry guys, my mouse just fell apart. The little trackball had rubber on it. Okay, so go point to point. We got a chain there, chain here, chain here. So now we have our closed chain, but if I come in here and do mark open edges, since I've picked a sketch, I cannot mark those open edges at all. So what you guys can do is, if you have, let's say I want this one as a marked open edges, 2 ways of going about that. We can mark the entire chain as open and then come back and do the wall like I was just talking about, or we can do, you know, the select entity, so the from to entity. So from here to here, I want it open, and it will open up that slot for you guys. So just one kind of little trick right there, using just sketch geometry with point to point. So, okay, let's see if I was waiting for Andrew to pop in, but I think he must have forgot about us tonight. Okay, so now as we're kind of going through it, let's kind of focus on the chain section right here. So this chain, show chain on working plane. What this is going to do is it's going to produce, let me just delete this, yes, and we'll just chain this guy right here. So what that is showing us is the chain up on top in purple. Now, this will throw you for a loop. Personally, I don't like it, but it shows you the plane there. And the only reason why I say I don't like it is if I come and mark open edges on this, and if I'm looking straight down on it, I'm clicking that mark open edges and it's still showing pink when the open edge would show black. So this is something that you guys can turn off just on this particular case. So I can come in here, turn it off, or you guys can go to your settings and turn that off so it never comes on for you guys. So just keep that in mind for you. And you know, if you don't like it, just turn it off in your settings. And let me just hop out of here and I'll show you guys in the settings. Tool, SolidCAM.
Well, one of the places where the show chain on work plane really comes in handy is when you're working with 3D geometry, because you want to see what that projection of that work area is going to be, because it may not present itself as well when you're working across 3D surfaces. So each thing has its place, and it's up to you to determine what works for you guys.
Yeah, great point. So here's the defaults for your geometry. So if you open up your SolidCAM settings, come over to the geometry button. Here is where all your settings are for that field. So let's say you guys want to change the gap minimum or maximum. We don't want to show that chain. We can just uncheck it. As you guys are picking geometry, you know, sometimes by default, the tangent propagation is turned on and the constant Z propagation is turned on. Maybe you guys don't like that. You guys can turn that off right here. Smart face settings, which we're going to cover here next. You can do it for pocket and iMachining, or we can actually do it for profile as well. The auto depth and the shift positions really don't kind of pertain to the geometry picking itself. So if you guys don't like, you know, like I said, the show chain on boy, can I talk tonight? Show chain on working plane, you guys can just unselect that as well. So, okay, so let's get back in here and go to pocket. New. Okay, I'm gonna throw something out at you guys here. Okay, so as we're kind of doing these night classes, I kind of think I know the answer, but I want your guys' take on it. And this has nothing to pertain to with our geometry. I just thought of it right now, and Greg and I were talking about it last week. As we're kind of going through this stuff, now let's say we're doing a night class on pocketing. Would you guys be interested in, after I show you guys how to do a pocket on a certain cut, or maybe a certain cut style or something like that, would you guys like to see that live cut on the machine as well? Absolutely.
We've got an absolutely, yes.
Okay. Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know.
Look at that, a resounding yes.
On a CNC, yep, that's right, Ronnie. So we have that small little desktop machine. I'm going to see if I can get that transferred over from Scott's shop over to here and see if we guys can kind of start doing that going forward. Scott is really attached to that machine, so we'll have to kind of play that one by ear. But I think what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to email you guys, and if I can get enough yeses and saying we'd love to have that on there, I can send that. I can use that fuel for the fire. You know what I mean? But okay, thanks for you guys' feedback. Appreciate that.
Crowdfunding at its best.
Just amount to reduce. Yeah, that's true, Ronnie. Ronnie is worried we just won't get enough SolidCAM conveyed on here. But I think we'll have to kind of play with it. Because like I said, I want to be able to show you guys, but I'd like to show you guys some of the cuts that are also done by doing that stuff too. So yeah, we'll give it a crapshoot. But okay. So now, kind of going through, we covered the show chain on working plane. So now by default, it's going to be set to curve. Now curve is what I would say I use 99% of the time. In 17, a little bit more common. I've been using the smart face now, but curve is something easy. And let me just turn off my tangent propagation. I can just come over here, click on the edge, and it throws the line on there. If I want to go to the next one, I can hit the next button, or I can come over here and click going around. So that is the curve. So let me reject that. And what is, Ron, you have me confused, FWIW?
For what it's worth.
Oh. Okay, so smart face. Smart face, what that does is it automatically recognizes semi-open pockets, open pockets, does pretty much all the work for you guys. It works really well on the pocketing side of things. So if I just click on this face right here, I have to turn it on first. Click on that face. It's going to chain everything that's there for me. Now, if I was working on, I don't have the greatest example, but I would kind of show this in the What's New at 17. It's automatically going to mark open edges for you guys. It's going to do semi-open pockets. It's going to look at all the geometry that's based off there and grab the according geometry for you guys on that face. So, certain areas you'll have 10 different chains. And then it's automatically going to do those chains for you guys, but some of them will be marked as open, some will be semi-open, depending on how the geometry is done. So, and if you guys have more questions on this one, I think I'm going to do a little bit, like I'll have maybe Mark can do a 5-minute video on the smart face on all the different options in there. It's real easy to use. But it's just, there's just not much there for you guys. But like I said, it does some pretty smart technology in there. So the up to entity, what this is going to do is it's going to chain up to a certain point. So let's delete that. Yes. And let's say I want to do a chain right here, and I want to do up to this point or this line up here. So it just doesn't, as right now, it doesn't know which direction. So I can just tell it yes, yes, and then I have my chain. Now this up to entity is defaulted on by mill turn and turning. So you guys can just click your starting chain, and I kind of talked about this in the turning side of things. But it works real well just going up to a single entity that you want to chain up to. So that way you don't have to, you get to skip some mouse clicks by grabbing that up to entity. Okay, so now if we move down is the tangent propagation. Now what the tangent propagation is going to do is it's going to take, so when we do, well, let's skip over tangent propagation. Let's go to constant Z, and then we'll come back to tangent propagation. So constant Z is basically, it's going to take that chain and continue it on that constant Z level all the way around that it can go. So let me get out of here, and we'll just do constant Z, and it should throw a chain all the way around that constant Z. Now you guys can set up a delta tolerance right here of, by default it is going to show 0, but if you guys want to say, I don't mind if that chain will go up or down by 10 thou. Maybe everything's not on that exact working plane, so you guys can set that tolerance, plus or minus in there. Now, what tangent propagation does is the same thing, but it will go up a 3D incline or 3D wall or 3D surface vertex edge. Did I explain that right, Greg?
Well, as long as the entities are tangent to each other.
Yeah, there you go.
That's correct.
Yep. So kind of think of the tangent propagation as kind of more the 3D constant Z for the 2D, and you guys can run these together at the same time. So if you do tangent propagation and the constant Z, it's going to kind of work the same way for us here, as well as on a 3D, because like I said, by default install, these are both checked for you guys. So, okay. So the curve plus closed corners. What that does is the option enables you to close the gap between successive, I'm really sorry guys, for some reason I cannot talk today, successive chain entities in respect of the gap minimum and gap maximum. So what that is saying is, let's say, let me exit out of here. And I'm just going to do edit sketch, and let me see how I can do this here. If I do a line here to here, and we'll do a trim. Okay, so let's say we're chaining this right here, but we don't have the sketch geometry here to do this angle. So what we can do is, let's say, we want to square off that corner. Let's do profile here, new. So we can do our curve plus close corners, and I should be able to grab this chain right here. I'm going to reverse it, and I can click on this chain, and it's going to pretty much put that at a 90-degree angle for you guys. Now, if this line is not 90 degrees to it, it will do a arc in there for you guys. So I don't have a real good example of that one, but it's just going to throw an arc in there, kind of based off of how everything's kind of put together. If it's not 45 degrees right here. So this is one that ever since SolidCAM 2007, I haven't even touched. So not a real popular one, but the option is there for you guys. So, all right, so let's reject that chain, and let's go to loop. Now, for those of you guys that know SolidWorks, when you guys are doing stuff in SolidWorks, you guys have the option when you're clicking on something to do loop inside here. And I think it's when you're just, select loop right here. That's exactly what we're doing over with the SolidCAM. So what you guys can do is we can click loop, and I'll just click this chain right here. Now it's telling me that I can loop this one right here, this face right here that's highlighted in yellow, or do I want to loop and chain all the stuff in blue? So let's say if I wanted to go with the blue, I can just click on one of the blue lines, and it's going to chain it up for me. So it's just grabbing that entity that you've chosen, and it's going to go either that front face or the top face for you, looping that geometry around. Okay. Let me delete that here. Point to point. Point to point is one that gets used a lot. Missing geometry, maybe we need to do a gap in the line, kind of like this front face right here. Instead of coming down and over, or if this bottom piece was actually missing, I would have no way to connect the dots. So two ways of going about that is I could do a sketch and just do a sketch line over here, or what we could do is I can click on that, and then I can come over here and go point to point, and I can just hop right over it. And then now I can go back to curve and grab my geometry going all the way around for us. So like I said, real easy to use, and it's just basically taking and filling the gap for you guys. Now, like I said, you won't be able to mark that specific chain as open. So like I said, you can come over here. I didn't do it in epoxy, I did it in profile. You can come over here and do mark open edges, and this is where you'd use the from to. So we'll say from this line to this line over here, I would like that chain to be open. Okay. Okay. So now here's another one that personally don't use very much, but just want to show you guys. If you guys have points, let's say it's basically like your spline tool inside SolidWorks. So we know with the spline tool inside SolidWorks, you guys just click the points and the lines just connect themselves. So if we come over here and do arc by points, I can come over here, click that point, and that point, and it's going to throw a arc in there for me. So this is, just kind of connecting the dots using a arc. Real simple, easy to use. Any questions with this chaining stuff right here? Okay, so let's kind of scroll down here. Let me reject that chain here. Now here's another one that I like using quite a bit, is the multi-chain. Now multi-chain is for doing multiple chains. So you guys can come in here, and they have some nice features in here. We can do by edges, so I can just click on and it will find the edges for me. I can use text, and I can use faces. Now the one I use quite a bit in here, especially for the guys that do a lot of engraving, is the text portion. So if I come in here, if I turn it over to text, you'll see the little A icon over my mouse cursor. That's basically telling me that I am hovering over a font geometry inside SolidCAM. Then I can just click, and it's automatically going to grab all the geometry pertaining to that SolidWorks font or text, you could say. So got a couple different options over here as well. You can sort your chains. We can do chain directions. So it's going to actually show you, or you can change the chain directions. We can change the order, all that stuff right here. Also, I was thinking it was the view chain button. You guys can show where those chains are going and the direction that they are going. So real cool. You can just hit the green check mark, and as soon as you hit the green check mark for that multi-chain, it will show you the chain direction as well in here. So like I said, just kind of stuff in here to get you guys more proficient with the chaining portion of the software.
And what's nice about the multi-chain too is you're not locked in to that mass selection. You could go back through and edit these chains or delete these chains if you don't want to engrave the entirety of it.
Yeah, so if you want to skip out on a certain chain, I can come over here and delete. Why am I not able to delete? Normally you can, let me get some fresh. Greg, are we going to make you a liar?
It's looking that way. It was bound to happen eventually.
So now we should be able to, no, I could have sworn if we click on here. Okay, so you won't be able to right click on it, but you guys can come over here and just hit your delete key and say yes, and it will delete that one out of there for you guys. So I have to look into why we can't hit the delete button right there. we can do with the entire.
Yeah.
But
this works really good if you're doing serial number engraving, where you need to input a macro that is going to be a serial number counter, but you want to have that placeholder modeled in. So you'd be able to select that entire text and then deselect the numbers that are going to be involved in creating that macro.
Yeah.
So it works out pretty well for those guys.
And for those of you guys that are wondering what is the best font to use, I think both Greg and I's personal favorite is going to be the DPS Schrift. It works really good just for a single line serial number font. You know, you can get any font out there, but that seems to be the best one. But now,
yeah, very clean, very fast.
Yeah, easy to use. Now, you do have the option for those of you guys that are using Inventor. You guys in Inventor cannot do a geometry like this. So you can't just do single, boy, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, single font geometry in here. So what we've done is we've added in this text box right here. So you guys can actually come in here and basically do the same thing. So what it's looking for is a reference point. Where do we want that? So we can do a pick point, and we can actually, tell it to go to a certain area. If we do the edit text right here, if you just click and drag it, so we have a window and do text. Oh, sorry, I got to do it. Hit the text button. Now I can come in here and type SolidCAM, and we can change the font as well. So DPS Schrift, hit OK. And here's how you can change the size. So we make it larger or smaller. And it is, we'll do pick point, and we'll use this point right there. And we can do a preview, and it shows going up this way. Now, if we want to change, the angle of it, we can come in here and say, 90 degrees, or we can flip it around. So all the stuff that you guys have the functionality, sorry, I feel like I gotta sneeze, inside SolidWorks, you guys, hang on a second. Sorry about that. So you guys can flip it around and pick whatever geometry that you want. Okay, before I'm losing it here, the name of that font is DPS Schrift. So, okay, so now the spline approximation. Now this gets a little confusing sometimes. So your spline approximation is, I do have a couple screenshots I want to show you guys here. So is the tolerance of between a spline between points. So I got a little screenshot here of kind of representing what's going on right here. So as that spline is going around, with splines, they can go every which way. You guys can actually set up a tolerance for that and move those around. The spline approximation, this is one that, the default setting, I found out that to be very good. You guys, it's completely up on how the geometry is created from the engineer or you guys. But from what I've run across over the years, this is not one that had to really do a lot of changing with. Like I said, if I give you guys the full definition here, let me just find it real quick. So this field enables you to define the spline approximation tolerance for the chain selection. So the spline approximation, like I said, it's just the tolerance going back and forth to get a more smooth or more transition from point to point on a spline. and give you a little picture is right here. So, you know, maybe you have your spline, it's a little bit farther down, but we're trying to make a nice sweeping arc, and that is the tolerance that is being left there. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now down farther. This is one does play into factor quite a bit. How many of you guys have gotten this error right here? Gap exceeds the maximum value. Please modify the gap value. Or what comes along with that is this one that pops up right here. So what this is saying right here is, let's say as we're chaining right here on this corner, if there's just a little bit of a gap there, it's going to ask you, do you want to close the gap? Now, if this gap that you have specified down here is too large, it's not going to close it, and that's when we're going to get this error here. So if you want to close the gap, you guys can make this number larger right here, and that will, the minimum and maximum, we can make these larger or smaller. That will close off that gap, or another way of going about that is doing a point-to-point if you have to zoom pretty far in there. So if you guys are getting these messages, that has all to pertain down right here. Now, cancel out of here, and let me cancel out of here and just get fresh. So let's say our gap minimum and maximum are set a little bit different. So let's do a gap maximum of 10 thou and a gap minimum of 1 thou. So we have these set up. So here's what's going to go up is there's gaps in all kinds of geometry. But now if I go to my multi-chain, we'll just do text again. We now went from 5 chains to 75 chains. And so what it does is it's breaking it up into each individual chains for you guys. Now that's all to do with our numbers down here. So basically what I told it is, you know, anything that has, you know, a small gap in there, mark it as a separate chain. Hopefully I'm kind of explaining that for you guys to understand. Like on this O, it's breaking it up, I guess, into line segments versus having one fluent chain going all around. So if you guys are getting this, definitely come over here and let me delete this again here. And we can do a gap minimum of, let's just say, we'll do 10 thou and 100 thou. So now we should have a nice smooth one line for each letter. Nope, I got more chains now. Delete. Oh, I think I had 40 in here. There we go. Now we should have one single line. There we go. It's just added to my list. So that's the way to kind of clean up and get one single toolpath versus having it chopped up into a bunch of different little line segments for you guys. Yep. Okay. Any questions, guys? Or Greg, is there anything that I missed or you want to add in?
No, it's looking pretty good. Not a lot of questions coming through the queue. You must be explaining it pretty well, or everybody's going easy on me tonight.
Yeah. Let's see. What is the name of the font? And you know, to show you that font, we had that question pop up here. If you guys are in your SolidWorks, we'll just do a sketch, and we'll just say test here. and click this or uncheck this use document font and go over to your fonts and just type in D. And it's usually the first one that pops up. So the DPS Schrift single is the most achievable way. And if you guys are looking at kind of the engraving stuff, we did do a night class on the engraving as well. So if that video does have any interest for you guys, come there and check it out. So.
Yeah, and the font is included with the SolidWorks install. So you guys should have it with every installation of SolidWorks. And we should probably put the name of it in the video link too.
Yeah.
On the YouTube channel.
Yep. And put that in there for the people that are watching on YouTube. Doing great. Perfect. All right. I don't see Ronnie. You got no questions for me?
Just answers tonight.
I know. You know, Ronnie, what I'm going to do is for the tip of the day, I'm going to make your computer as the presenter, and I'm going to have you do the tip of the day one of these days. But no, and for those of you, like I said, I talked about the tip of the day and something kind of exciting, and every single day we're putting our heads together and coming up with a video for you guys that can help benefit that too. So my goal is to keep them under 2 minutes for you guys, because like I said, time is crucial during the day, and you know how all you guys are busy. So, but I broke my rule. My first video was 1 minute 41 seconds on the optimized geometry database. So we'll keep those down to a minimum for you guys. But yeah, any ideas, suggestions, send those over to me, email, and love to add those in there. Like I said, we kind of we're getting kind of close to the end of the night class. You know, ideas. We have probably about a month and a half more left, and I'm kind of torn on what we should go next. So if you guys have those ideas, let me know what we can do for you guys. And like I said, I want to make this this training is beneficial for you guys. So. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. So thank you guys for attending the night class tonight. It's great having all you guys and all the great remarks in here. Love seeing that. And if we don't talk to you guys in the meantime, we will talk to you guys next week, which is covering, I forgot. I know I do this to you guys every week here. Let me go to SolidCAM. And we are doing webinars, night class. Oh, the Solid Verify stock. So how to utilize that Solid Verify stock. And what I'm talking about is, if we go in here, we'll just do a simulate Solid Verify.
Wow.
How to
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, how to save out and load up that the stock. So probably be a little shorter of a night class video, but just going to show you guys how to, work with that STL stock, importing it and exporting it out. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful night, and we will talk to you guys next week. See you guys.